Yum! Sous vide tri-tip steak is a mouth-watering recipe that's easy enough to make for a quick weeknight dinner and exciting enough to please a whole crowd. Think game day food. It's covered in delicious creamy cilantro sauce in my recipe, and this grilled or cast iron finished steak recipe has become one of my go-to when I'm craving a savory restaurant quality sandwich. Let me take you in the kitchen and show you how to make it. So the first thing you're going to do is put together the steak seasoning, and I keep things pretty simple, and for this recipe I use some garlic, crushed red pepper flakes, and of course salt and pepper. You could also use some salt that's like a barbecue salt or a smoked salt or any other salt that you'd like. So preheat the sous vide machine to 130 degrees while the water is preheating. That's a good time to season the tri-tip steak with garlic, crushed red pepper flakes, salt, and pepper mixture. I suggest you put on as much as you want, and in my book, you can really never have too much garlic, but it's totally up to you how much of this seasoning you put on. Just make sure to graciously put it all over and massage it into the steak if you get a chance. So if you followed a lot of my sous vide recipe videos here on sipbitego, you know that I usually vacuum seal my food, and something as large as a tri-tip usually needs to be vacuum sealed, but you could always cut it in half if you were trying to put it in a Ziploc bag, or you could probably even just bend it and you won't have any trouble fitting it in a gallon bag. But I just have some weird obsession with vacuum sealing food, so for this sous vide steak recipe, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So you can see that I vacuum seal the tri-tip in a flat layer, and then the bag is ready to go in the sous vide bath. Now, I've played around with quite a different few temperatures and times for sous vide tri-tip, and one of my favorites is this one I'm going to share with you today, which is 130 degrees for 2 hours. It's kind of surprising that something as large as a tri-tip steak, sous vide style, could be cooked in only 2 hours, but it comes out absolutely perfect. While the tri-tip is cooking in the water bath, that's a good time to make the cilantro sauce, which I'll show you how to do in just a little bit. But after it's done cooking, you can take the tri-tip out of the sous vide bath, and you can set up an ice bath by adding ice and cold water to a large bowl. I like to shock it like this to cool down the temperature, so when it goes on to the final step, which is searing it in a cast iron pan or putting it on the grill, that it's already at a lower temperature so the outside heats up, but the inside doesn't continue cooking. So shock the tri-tip sous vide cooked in an ice bath for about 10 minutes if you have the time, and then you're ready to move on to the next step. So once the ice bath has done its thing, it's time to remove the tri-tip from the bag and pat it dry. Then you can choose a finishing method, but definitely don't forget to pat the tri-tip dry on all sides with some paper towel, because that means when it hits the heat, it's not going to steam because the outside will have that moisture removed. It's going to get a nice crisp sear. Now, if I was going to sear the sous vide tri-tip in a cast iron skillet, what I would do is heat a large skillet to medium high, add the olive oil to the pan, and then sear all sides of the tri-tip for about 30 to 60 seconds until they're completely browned. But what I'm going to show you today is grilling, which you'll see my husband's hands in here as well. So what we did is we brushed the olive oil on the outside of the cooked sous vide tri-tip, and then we heat the grill to high heat, going for about 500 degrees. It takes about, 5 to 10 minutes to get there for most grills. And then once the temperature is reached, it's time to add the sous vide tri-tip and cover the grill with the lid. So it's in there grilling, and you got to kind of eyeball this because each grill reacts differently, but we like to get those beautiful grill marks. So we just turn the steak a little bit so we can get those marks, but really quickly the searing or this grilling process takes place just to get the seal on the outside of that browned crust, because the inside is already completely cooked from the sous vide cooking process. Woo! Look at that beauty. Does this not look beautiful? I really do love grilling, but this is also something that's really great to do in a cast iron skillet if it's raining outside, which happens all the time because I live in Portland, Oregon. So anyways, you just want to let the steak rest for, about 10 minutes on a cutting board before slicing it and serving it with the sauce. Now, that sauce is something super dreamy, so I do recommend serving it with it. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to make the cilantro sauce, which I just can't stop talking about. So what you do is you add garlic and olive oil to a pan on medium heat. Now you don't have to do this step, but I prefer garlic when it's been a little bit roasted. So you saute the garlic for about a minute and you stir it regularly, and you want to make sure the garlic does not burn. So pull the garlic olive oil from the heat when it's translucent and before it turns brown. Next, you want to add sour cream, chopped cilantro, the roasted garlic olive oil, some lime zest, some lime juice, and all the spices into a small blender. Now, the spices that I use for this one are chipotle powder and salt, but you could use whatever you have on hand. So then all that gets blended together. Here it's just in my little NutriBullet. And in about 10 to 20 seconds, there's a really smooth consistency, and you can just chill the sauce in the fridge until you're ready to serve the steak. Now, I just want to leave you with a couple other final tips for making sous vide tri-tip steak. If you want to add even more flavor, check out sipbitego.com, where I talk about different steak marinades for sous vide cooking. You could set up a steak marinade for this a few hours in advance and then take it out of the marinade and pop it in the bag with some extra garlic or whatever other seasonings you'd like. That's just one idea. And then another one I have is it's really great to use this sauce on anything. So the first day we may just enjoy the tri-tip on a salad or something like that. And then the next day we might use that sauce again and make tacos and put tons of that sauce in the tacos. And then on the third day, if there's any sauce left over, sometimes I'll actually use it to marinate chicken. So this cilantro sauce is really amazing, and I have other sauces that you could check out as well on sipbitego.com. Well, I don't know about you, but looking at these photos makes me super hungry. I'm really passionate about sous vide cooking, and maybe that's why sipbitego has become one of the most popular places to find sous vide recipes on the web. I can't wait to share more recipes with you coming soon. If you haven't tried sous vide fingerling potatoes, what are you waiting for? They're one of my favorite sous vide side dishes, and they're really easy if you are into sous vide meal prep. You can make them in advance of your meal and just finish them in the oven when it's time to serve them. They only take an hour and a half to make and then the broiling time, so I highly recommend you check out this recipe. It's available at sipbitego.com and on the sipbitego YouTube channel. For more delicious sous vide recipes and other easy family recipes that you can make time and time again, make sure to subscribe to the sipbitego channel on YouTube so you get all my delicious recipe ideas. Well, don't hesitate to leave me a comment or reach out to me if you have any questions about sous videing tri-tip. It's definitely something to add to your sous vide bucket list. And until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful and delicious day. Cheers!